Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, the committee, for hosting this event. It's hard to believe that it's been 21 years since I sat where you are sitting today. 21 years. So I think in many aspects, possibly figuratively, I've grown up. I can't say one day when I grow up. I now have the grey hairs to prove it. I have grown up a bit. And then it's also equally amazing that 9310959, it was my student number. Funny how I remember that without having to look back into the archives. Never did I imagine when I embarked on my career and 20 and 30 and 40-something adventures that I'd be back 21 years later sharing my story and some of my ups and downs, my highs and lows, my rigmaroles. And hopefully there will be a nugget or two that you can take away and that you'll relate to. If not, I believe there's a whole week of Careers Cafe. So my wish for you is that you do take away something as you look forward to taking on your chosen career and profession. Today will definitely be one of my highlights this year, unless I become so absolutely frazzled and overwhelmed that I just hit a blank. And I have no idea what I'm going to say next. But I do have an understudy in the wings, Sean. He is on standby, so he'll come and rescue me, I'm sure. Now, I draw my inspiration from a number of thought leaders. And one of them is Simon Sinek. I don't know if anybody has heard about Simon and what Simon says. He says a lot of things, but one of the things he says is that working hard for something you don't care about is called stress. Working hard about something you love is called passion. And that really, for me, gave me the idea to address this question around the topic of my talk today. Are you brave enough to pursue happiness in your chosen career, wherever that may be? Now, I consider Simon's quote a call to action, to unashamedly and wholeheartedly embrace your God-given talents, your skills, the gifts that you've been bestowed with, and make your contribution during this lifetime count. Make it matter. Make it unique and invaluable. To trust your intuition or gut when you feel your passion ignite something inside of you, literally for me, means that you get this visceral reaction. So your heart starts pumping faster. You become flushed. Maybe you get goosebumps. Your hair's standing up in a good way and for good reason. You know, the stuff that sends all those happy hormones surging through your veins, dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, happy, happy, happy hormones. You're in the zone. Have you felt like that? When last have you felt like that? Don't get me wrong, life is not one perpetual ray of sunshine. It isn't. It can definitely and will most definitely be a not so little ray of pitch black many times. It does depend on you though. My working experience in the last 20 years tell me that we pay our intuition or gut very little to no attention when it comes to our happiness or our passions. Too many of us ignore or downplay it when it comes to happiness because ironically, I think we fear it. We're afraid of what this may mean. We focus on stuff instead. The bills, the rent, not fitting in, what the family may say, not belonging, towing the line, letting others down, letting yourself down. Whatever the reason may be, we rather choose to take a big royal dump on our own happiness and just continue this vicious cycle, year after year after year. It took me almost 20 years and to realize that it's okay. And it's quite necessary and essential to rediscover, feed and fuel my passion, my talents and gifts without the guilt, without regret, without the doubt, without the anxiety. And guess what? I can still pay the bills and I can still shop at Woolies. What's not to love about that eat in for under 150 Rand, right? I believe that we should be guided by what energizes us or reignites us, and that we can have fun and good fortune by doing just this. But it does require sometimes to travel the road less traveled, or go the road less traveled. And let me tell you, these passions can change and evolve because the world changes and evolves. So you don't just have one passion, you'll have many, many passions. You have passions today, they'll evolve, they'll change, you'll add to the list. When last have you had a silly grin, beaming from ear to ear, just thinking about the day ahead or what you're about to do? Instead, we spend an inordinate amount of time, effort, and energy cramming our heads with obligations, responsibilities, accountability, the reasons we can't think about happy just now. Put happy on the back burner. Responsibilities and pressures will keep coming at you. They don't stop, they don't end. And we regress as grown-ups into this, okay, it's okay not to be happy. I believe that passion is fundamental to building a career that you love and being happy. For me, it was a mix of many happy and not so happy things over the last 20 years. That's just life. It's not me. Personally, I didn't consciously make the connection between passion in the beginning and what I was experiencing and what I went on to become and do. It just kind of happened that way. When I was in your shoes many, many years ago, all I focused on after graduation was finish my degree. Finish the degree. For me, it was a matter of I want to get in and I want to get out. In fact, years later, there were still many of my friends that had just never left. Number two, I wanted to get a real job to pay off my student loan debt. That was the big hurdle waiting for me after graduation. Once campus life was over. Number three, I wanted to get my own place. I was still living with my folks who are here. And I lived at home, loved living at home, but I needed to get my own place. I needed to move out. Four, I wanted to have fun, and I didn't want to be an inconvenience. My parents, my mom, never slept until I got back into the house. Any of your parents do that? So you've got your key, you go out, you're out having fun, but they don't sleep, and that just burdened me. So I needed to have fun and come and go as I please without being an inconvenience to anyone. And number five, I wanted to buy a car, because in our family, it is an incredible milestone to buy your own car with your own money once you have your own job. So that was the five things. So I did MAID, right? Simple goals post-graduating. Relatively easy to achieve if I just secured that job that would get me some disposable income to tick off some of those boxes. But did you notice that 4 out of the 5 things were just stuff? It's just stuff. I believe that a lot of my choices in life, and you've seen the screen up there, have been serendipitous. Or as my dear therapist once told me, Adéle, it's called synchronicity. Yes, it is true. In my pursuit of happiness, I had therapy along the way and make peace with it. Many of you going into the working world will probably need therapy too. I believe that a lot of my choices in life have been serendipitous. So let's get back to this issue of synchronicity or serendipity or fate. In this instance, I'm talking about the value of being in the right place at the right time. My husband, Nate, P.S., we've been unhappily and happily married for the last 17 years. And he shared this nugget with me recently because I feel really good about life. You know, everything's just falling into place. Everything is just happening the way it should. I'm saying, wow, this is just being in the right place at the right time. And it's not unusual for him then to tell me, Adéle, I don't agree with you. And then I look at him and I say, why? Why must you rain on my zen, you know? Adéle, he says, you can be in the right place at the right time, but only if you are open to it. If you are aware and you are ready to take action and make a decision in that moment, does it really matter? Does make sense, doesn't it? Being in the right place at the right time leads you to the water, but it can't make you drink it. It does if you do nothing in that moment, or worse still, you're blissfully unaware, ignorant, and oblivious to what opportunities are coming to knock at your door in that moment. That is an epic fail if ever there was one. So if we're not listening, paying attention, and if we are not fully present, we may miss out on amazing opportunities. I'll put it into context for you. Whilst attending high school, I had to select subjects that I would take until heading into matric. And I remember walking down the school hall, completely what am I going to do? And walking past 3 classrooms. This is how I made my decision. The first classroom, Latin. overcrowded. Everybody that was going to pursue a law profession was in Latin. Second one, French, overcrowded. Every girl at that school wanted to speak French. Third classroom, German. 5 girls. That's the one I chose. But I like the space. This is my scene. So in the right place at the right time, that's the subject I picked. And then since I spoke German fluently after high school and university, it meant that I was considered for various jobs that required to speak German fluently. I'd called up the German placement agency a few months before I graduated in 97. I got the number from the phone directory. It was nothing major. I looked up G for German and found the number of a German placement agency. And as a local Stellenbosch resident and student, I was, of course, passionate about local wines. Who wouldn't be? And from December 1st that year, I hadn't even gone to my graduation, I started my first real job at Neertlingshof Wine Estate, drinking wine for a living and being paid for it and speaking German. So this very same German placement agency was tasked to hire the setup of Lufthansa German Airlines Global Reservation Center. Okay. So the same German placement agency was then hired to hire the first team that was going to come up, set up the Global Reservation Center. It was the 7th Global Reservation Center for Lufthansa German Airlines, and they said, would you want to leave your career in wine and go and work for Lufthansa Global German Airlines? And I said, of course I want to. So on the 1st of May 1999, my first day at Lufthansa, I found myself again in the right place at the right time. Sorry, are my wires crossed? Okay. Do you need any? Okay. So again, in the right place at the right time with 20 other individuals. And why? Because that was the beginning of it all. They promoted from within. Within 3 months, I got the first of many, many promotions until I headed up the operations for the entire site. But it was being in the right place at the right time, taking initiative, showing a keen interest in what was happening around you, in the welfare of everybody else, doing this for the first time as well, showing a keen love for what I was doing and what I was a part of, building. In Cape Town, Lufthansa chose to open an office here. So I was part of this greater purpose, and even more simply put, doing what I love to the best of my ability, doing what I was passionate about. Once again, I couldn't think of anything better than being paid to talk on the phone all day. And even back then, making people happy, getting them to where they needed to be. Whether you choose to call it synchronicity, serendipity, divine intervention, fate, know that the differentiator is you. It's you being open and aware and willing when that moment comes knocking. You being brave enough to make a choice or decision that could lead to even greater happiness, both for yourself and others. Be okay with the fact that it may sometimes also be the most difficult decisions you have to make, but leap anyway and trust your gut. This is a photograph of my brother who's doing some cliff jumping in Thailand, I think. But, take the leap. It's exhilarating. Again, that visceral reaction. My younger brother and I had a very blessed and happy childhood. There were just the two of us. And I've realized and come to appreciate our incredibly diverse upbringing while growing up in the 80s and the 90s. I was preparing this talk last night with my 9-year-old, and I usually have her. She has 2 minutes, and I said, I've got 20 minutes, so can you just listen to Mommy's talk? And she did that, and she listened. And afterwards I said, did you learn anything? Did you learn anything new about Mom? And she said, yeah, I never knew you grew up in the 80s and the 90s. It's just completely foreign. But I attended 5 different schools growing up, experiencing state, private, and Model C model schools. I have so many memorabilia that mean absolutely nothing today, including head girl honors and a little badge. Certificates, merit badges, you name it, I got it. Back in the 80s, attending a black and colored public school Also meant that you got to experience a heightened era of revolution, anger, disruption, and for good reason. Political change was imminent and overdue. My parents, who have always encouraged us to learn and experience new things, also to get a solid education under our belts, found a way to get Duke and me off to Cape Town, away from the riots, away from the burning fires, and away from the protest action, where we got to experience how the other half lived and how the other half learned. Now, you may or may not know, but my maiden name was Kluter. And the Kluter family has a defiant and mischievous streak in them. Let me tell you, like salmon, we love to swim upstream. So this leads me to my next story. One memory of apartheid for me as a little kid was being told by a police officer that I couldn't walk on Strand Beach. This is a photo of Strand Beach. And I must have, I don't know how old I was, but it must have been this very intimidating police officer telling me, get off the wall. And then I told him, but I'm not on the beach, technically. I'm on the wall. I was balancing and walking on the wall. I was nowhere near the white beach or the sea. So I defiantly remained on the beach wall. I always wondered where my girls got that from, but they also have this cheeky streak. Well, to cut a long story short, back then I lost the argument with a police officer and had to step off the wall. What can I say? He may have won the battle, he did not win the war. Our parents always had our future and best interest at heart, and as such, a formal education ranked right up there, and in an extended family of educators. So too did learning through more informal means, engaging with people from all walks of life across the race or gender divide. Age, religion, social standing, or background. And I encourage you to put yourself in others' shoes often. Walk a mile in their shoes. You, like them, get the opportunity every day to make a difference. Add value, contribute, and learn from the interaction. You will encounter people from all walks of life and generations. Don't get stuck and bask in your own glorified ignorance by only having one limited perspective, when you could see the world through so many amazing lenses. By the way, this is often one of the biggest challenges in the working world too, where competition is fierce and it's a dog-eat-dog world. You will find that climbing that proverbial ladder in the pursuit of title, rank, or status, and the hunger for the C-suite honors bring the best as well as the worst out in people. I've been there. I've done it. And very often, you feel like you're on the set of Survivor. It's outwit, outplay, and what's the other one? Outlast or go home. Literally. Some people don't come back. In some organizations and companies, it's really like being on that set of Survivor. If ever you feel this way, wherever the path may lead for you, rest assured you do have options. Did I mention therapy? Don't ever be ashamed. But seriously, champion the change that you want to see in that instance. Be courageous and champion the change. Or get out and find your happiness elsewhere. It's as simple as that. Life's too short to be miserable. Companies and HR teams spend literally hours and millions of rands trying to get people working closely and better together. It's amazing because we work in different functions. I was in HR, I was in operations, there's IT, there's marketing, there's finance, there's legal. Everybody goes on training to get along better, to work better together. So there's an abundance of IQ. There's no shortage of IQ, but there is a shortage of EQ. And there is a shortage of learning how to get the best out of others, how to listen, how to be open to new ideas. Empathy, understanding the other person. That's the real issues in the working place. Believe me when I say that in my job as an HR executive in multiple industries, across multiple companies, this remains the primary challenge for organizations today. Leaders and HR teams need and grapple to lead, how to lead and build strong, competent, and effective cross-functional teams. As a child, it was a non-issue for me to talk to whoever I wanted to, even if they were different to me. In fact, it was a treat because I was naturally curious about things I may never have experienced before. And I loved the look of fascination when I, on occasion, happened to share something that really made somebody else's eyes light up. Both parties in that exchange feel better for doing that. We walk away learning something, we walk away knowing something, having grown. Now, this doesn't shield you from culture shock, even if you claim to be the most enlightened and transformed human being on the planet, which I definitely am not claiming to be. I have biases too. I remember it being a big thing when I first saw white people in Adéle Valley that moved in. And I said, oh, look who's moved into the hood. Diversity and the adversity that comes with it often collide and stem from within our own communities, those closest to you. Our own South African dynamic and context is a much more complex and deep-seated issue that we will have to grapple with and navigate for many years to come. This is a lesson that you will learn over and over again in the real world, wherever you go, and when you least expect it. Maybe it was another case of synchronicity or some serendipity at play, but Duke and I both got to experience boarding school life. We were both A-grade students, and this probably had something to do with getting through those gilded doors of opportunity. But attending private and previously white-only schools also came at a cost. I was often criticized, even ostracized, when coming back home to Adéle Valley, called a coconut. Can you believe it? People are mean. Brown on the outside, white on the inside. A sellout, a pariah who had turned her back on the struggle. Everyone else was still surviving and fighting every day. I was told I talk funny because I didn't have a typical colored accent. I do, by the way. I remember when Duke transferred to a high school in Stellenbosch from Rondebosch Boys, and what I like to believe was a well-meaning teacher and trying to explain with a necessary sensitivity and tact to my parents that kids from previously disadvantaged schools did tend to take a bit longer to adapt in the Model C school. So they need not worry. He would do better. Just give him time to settle into this new schooling system. He later went on to become a Mensa member. He just was lazy that week and did not too great in a test. But it's funny the conclusions we jump to, all of us. I remember also early on in my career when a senior manager said to me out of the blue, "Ag Adéle, soms vergeet ek jy's nie fit nie." I still grapple with that because is it a compliment or an insult? I don't know, but it's stuck with me. Accept that there will be haters, ignore them. Be true to who you are and seek out your tribe. We have a gift and an obligation to share our story, all our stories, no matter who you are. Share your insights. And my challenge to you is to dust your life with this mixed masala that is uniquely South African and make your life interesting. Be happy. The other day, for the first time I ever got to experience delicious milk course. I never ate milk course in my life. And this is stuff that people that I was with grew up with. I mean, it's amazing. I learned something and I want to make it myself. I've been deprived all these years. Courage and resilience in the face of adversity are also critical skills that you'll need in the workplace and in life. And you need to master this. There'll be curveballs, raging fires, pawpaws coming at you from all directions. So root yourself in significance, whatever that means for you, whether it's your faith, your family, or your friends. Seek out mentors, role models who can support, teach, and mold you to become the best version of you. Pray often. Believe me, I fall to my knees many days. It makes all the difference. Some of the most serious storms I have faced, and there have been many that I've had to deal with and confront head on in work and in my life, included the news that Nate, my hubby, was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, the big C, 1 week before my 40th birthday. Happy to report he's been in remission for 3 years, still going strong. Another was the morning of November 19th, around 2016, around 8 a.m., when I got the call that Duke, my younger brother and wingman, twin soul, had taken a fall while running a 10K trail run at Simonsig Wine Estate in Stellenbosch. This is the photo of Duke that morning. How bad is it? I asked. Thought, he sprained an ankle. You need to get here as soon as you can. How bad is it? I asked again. They're giving him CPR. Fellow runners and paramedics on the scene had desperately tried to resuscitate him for more than an hour, but Duke had suffered a massive aortic aneurysm and died at the age of 38. He was, and still is, my twin soul, and I learned so much from him. He had lived an abundant life. He was an accountant, but he kicked that to the curb, and then he went to go teach English in Korea. His mission was to be happy. We are not invincible. We are human beings with human issues and human flaws. Look after yourself, get enough sleep, drink water, exercise, eat well, and rest, and all the rest of it. That's the area of my life I'm still working on. But believe me, it does work. Life's pace is excruciating, and change is like a tsunami. It never stops. It's never over. Life is about decisions and choices we make every day. So treat your brain with respect. Neuroscientists recommend 7 to 9 hours sleep. When you hit the corporate world, it's okay to survive on 4. It's not okay. Don't set new records for getting the least sleep just to get a job or a title under your belt. We navigate so much change in this world. Researchers now talk about the agility quotient, how agile you are to deal with new information, change, unavoidable next wave of change. It all boils down to that famous futurist, Toffler, who talks about learning, unlearning, and relearning. And when I did an executive leadership program with Duke University in 2017, the mantra fast became leaning into the discomfort. Because this means that you're growing and you're learning. Like the burn you feel during a very intense workout, it doesn't feel good in that moment. Your heart rate is going through the roof, but this is what you need. Do not become complacent or comfortable. Ask yourself often when last you did something for the first time or differently, and then get to it. Push yourself, raise the bar, beat your own personal best. Experiment, test, fail, succeed, but learn, unlearn, relearn, repeat. So as I hope you'll gather, once upon a time, I graduated in 97, starting my first real job on the 1st of December, 1997. And exactly 20 years to the day, I left what some may call my corporate comfort zone. I left it behind on the 30th of November, 2017. Serendipitous, synchronicity, 20 years to the day. My purpose today is to create happiness in this world in the time I'm given. By helping others succeed and holding firmly onto the belief that life is good. And it's good here in South Africa. Developing and inspiring future game changers, sharing my love and life through acts of giving, and thus doing my little bit to leave the world a little better than I found it. Here's just what fuels some of my happiness. My family, my parents, I get to do wine tasting in the week. I mean, it's amazing. I got to do a trail run. I don't run anywhere, but I did a trail run for the first time. We do the run every November. And you can see that Duke, Nate, and I, we also call ourselves Team DNA. We're passionate about coffee, so guess what? We bought a coffee shop. And these are some of the things that pay my bills and fuel my happiness. You know, cafe, please come and visit. Please like our page. Please come and have coffee. Chat, craft beer too. I love music. We do events for the love of it, and we've involved that into For the Love of Duke on wine estates, celebrating life, music, good food. And then, of course, I'm also a consultant. My company is called ABC Squared, and I'm an associate for a company called Legitimate Leadership, helping leaders establish legitimacy. Be real. Why should people listen to you? Some may call it idealism, some may call me bold and brave, others call me insane to have left this cushy job with a guaranteed paycheck, and a damn good one at that. I choose to call it my emancipation. There are volumes written on finding your purpose, happiness, and being engaged. There's so much on this topic because I think we've lost the plot, and it's taken us years to really, really realize that we've been barking up the wrong bloody tree. There's never a better time to challenge the status quo or challenge conventional wisdom and turn it on its head than today. I say this because you will more than likely also hear the following words often, wherever your career may take you. That's the way we've always done it. My advice to you 21 years later, and looking back to when I once sat where you're sitting today, would be to not ignore, downplay what makes you genuinely happy. Explore it, run with it. You only have one life to live. Make it your best one. Do something great with the time you're given. Thank you.